What if the story of humanity did not begin on Earth? What if our first home was a red world, far beyond the blue sky we know? A silent planet, cold deserts, ancient dust. A place we once called Mars. For thousands of years, humans have stared at that red dot in the night sky, and we all ask the same question: are we alone? But today, the question is changing, because now humanity is preparing to go there, not just to visit, not just to explore, but to live, to build, to survive, and maybe to discover something far more shocking than we ever imagined. Because if Mars once had life, even microscopic life, then the story of Earth might not actually begin here. It might begin there. A tiny spark of life, drifting through space billions of years ago, carried silently between worlds until it found a new home. Our oceans, our forests, our world, which means something extraordinary. Every tree you see, every animal that walks the earth, every human being alive today could share a forgotten ancestor, not from Earth, but from Mars. And now, after millions of years, we are going back, not as strangers, not as explorers, but as descendants, children returning to a world that may have started it all. But Mars is not waiting for us. Mars is not welcoming. It is a world of freezing deserts and endless dust storms, a world where the air cannot be breathed, where a single mistake can mean death within minutes. Which is why, before a human ever sets foot on Mars, they must first survive something far more difficult, training to become a Martian astronaut. And that training begins here, on Earth. Becoming a Martian astronaut is not something that happens overnight. It takes years of preparation, years of pushing the human body and mind to their absolute limits. Because Mars is not a forgiving world, and the people who go there must be ready for anything. So the training begins in some of the harshest places on Earth. Deserts where the heat burns through your suit, where the wind carries dust that never seems to settle. Astronaut cadets walk for miles across empty landscapes, carrying everything they need to survive: food, water, equipment, and hope. Every day the camp moves, just like it would on Mars. They learn how to climb jagged rocks, how to descend steep cliffs with nothing but a rope and their trust in it. They learn how to navigate without roads, using only the stars above them and the silent moon watching from the sky. Because on Mars, GPS will not always save you. Sometimes survival depends on instinct and calm thinking when everything around you is going wrong. In this training, nothing is wasted. A broken piece of metal can become a tool. A pile of debris can become a shelter. Even an abandoned vehicle can be transformed into something useful. Because on another planet, replacement parts may never arrive. If something breaks, you fix it, or you live with the consequences. The training also prepares astronauts for something far more difficult than the physical challenges: isolation, long periods without seeing new faces, without hearing the familiar sounds of Earth, without the comfort of knowing help is nearby. Because on Mars, the nearest rescue mission could be millions of kilometers away, and the crew beside you may be the only humans you see for years. That is why astronauts must learn not only how to survive, but how to endure, how to stay calm when the silence becomes heavy, how to stay focused when the distance from Earth begins to feel very real. But surviving Mars is not only about strength, it is about the mind. Because the greatest danger on another planet is not always outside the base. Sometimes it is inside your head. To prepare for that reality, every astronaut is watched by something unusual, an artificial intelligence known as second mind. The astronauts have another name for it. They call it Shadow. Shadow quietly observes every member of the crew. It watches through cameras. It listens to their voices. It studies their behavior, not to control them, but to protect them. Living millions of kilometers from Earth can slowly change a person. Stress builds, sleep patterns shift, small mistakes begin to appear, and sometimes the mind simply starts to shut down. Shadow is designed to notice those changes before anyone else can. It analyzes speech patterns, the speed of a sentence, the length of a pause, even the emotion hidden inside a voice. Astronauts record a short passage every few days. A simple story called The North Wind and the Sun. When they are calm, the AI records a baseline. Then it listens for changes. A slower rhythm, a heavier breath, a moment of hesitation, tiny signals that something may be wrong. Shadow also watches sleep cycles, food intake, work performance. Every detail becomes part of a larger picture. And when the system senses stress building, it quietly adjusts the astronaut's schedule, sometimes reducing workload, sometimes encouraging rest, sometimes pairing astronauts together who support each other best. Because on Mars, mental strength is just as important as physical survival. But even that is not the hardest part of the training. Some of the most difficult preparation happens deep underground, far from sunlight, far from the open sky, in ancient caves hidden beneath the mountains of Italy. Here, astronaut cadets spend days living in complete darkness. No sunrise, no sunset, no natural sense of time, only silence and their own thoughts. The goal is simple: to learn what it feels like when the world becomes small, when the outside universe disappears, and the only place left to explore is the human mind. But the journey to Mars demands more than mental endurance. It demands knowledge. A Martian astronaut must become many things at once: a scientist, an engineer, a mechanic, sometimes even a farmer. Because on Mars, there are no repair shops, no supermarkets, no emergency services. Everything must be built, repaired, and understood by the crew themselves. That is why the astronauts return to the classroom. But these are not ordinary classrooms. Here the teachers are powered by artificial intelligence. Lessons unfold inside vast virtual spaces. Planets rotate in front of the students. Storm systems move across digital landscapes. Entire colonies appear as interactive worlds. Astronauts study the ancient history of Mars. They learn how the planet formed billions of years ago, how rivers once carved valleys across its surface, and how those rivers slowly disappeared. They study the violent dust storms that can cover the entire planet, storms that can last for weeks, sometimes even months. They learn to recognize the subtle signs of fossilized life, tiny patterns in stone, ancient chemical signatures locked inside rock. Because one day, a Martian astronaut might discover the first proof that life once existed beyond Earth. But knowledge alone is not enough. The astronauts must also learn how to build the future. They study robotics, engineering systems, spacecraft mechanics, solar power networks, and the delicate ecosystems that will keep humans alive on another planet. Inside virtual reality simulations, the training becomes even more intense. Astronauts step into digital versions of spacecraft and Martian bases. Every movement is tracked, every reaction measured. Sensors monitor brain activity, heart rate, focus, stress levels. The simulations adapt in real time. If an astronaut performs well, the challenge increases. If mistakes begin to appear, the scenario becomes even more demanding. A sudden pressure leak in a spacecraft, a damaged rover stranded kilometers from the base, a solar storm approaching the colony. Each simulation pushes the astronauts closer to the reality they may one day face. Because on Mars, practice is not optional. It is survival. But knowledge and simulations are only part of the preparation, because space is unpredictable, and emergencies can happen in seconds. That is why every Martian astronaut must learn something unexpected. Medicine. Not everyone on the crew will be a doctor, but everyone must know how to save a life. Inside training hospitals, astronaut cadets work alongside medical teams. They learn how the human body responds to trauma, how to stop bleeding, how to stitch a wound, how to give injections, how to draw blood. Some of the training is intense. They practice responding to collapsed lungs, radiation exposure, severe injuries that could happen during space missions. Because on Mars, help from Earth is impossible. Every crew must become its own emergency response team. Astronauts also monitor their own health every single day. Blood pressure checks, blood analysis, inner ear balance tests, all of it tracked carefully. Because living in space slowly changes the human body. Bones weaken, muscles shrink, balance becomes fragile. Which is why astronauts must train like athletes. Every workday includes hours of exercise, running, resistance training, endless repetitions to keep the body strong. But physical training alone is not enough. To reach Mars, astronauts must also become pilots, some of the best pilots on Earth. They learn to fly supersonic fighter jets, feeling the crushing force of acceleration, learning how to stay calm when gravity pulls the body in every direction. They also train with helicopters, practicing vertical landings similar to those used on the Moon and Mars. Because one day their skills may decide whether a mission succeeds or fails. But perhaps the most extreme training happens in one of the coldest places on Earth, Antarctica. Hidden among the endless snowfields is a station designed to simulate a Martian colony. Full-scale replicas of habitats, fuel plants, living quarters. Here, astronauts live exactly as they would on Mars. Power failures, communication blackouts, weeks of darkness during the long polar winter, no emergency evacuation, no quick rescue, only the crew and the mission. Because if humans are going to survive on another planet, they must first prove they can survive together. After years of preparation on Earth, the final stage of training begins far beyond it. High above the surface of the Moon, hidden among silent craters and endless gray plains, lies the lunar training base. Here, astronauts take their final steps before becoming Martian explorers. The Moon is the closest place to Mars that humanity can practice. The gravity is weaker. The landscape is barren. The silence is absolute. Astronaut crews train for the missions that will define their lives, driving long distances across the dusty lunar surface, operating rovers designed for another world, practicing spacewalks in harsh, unforgiving terrain, drilling into rock and frozen soil, testing machines that will one day build entire cities on Mars. Some missions last days, others last weeks. Astronauts travel across the lunar wilderness in massive mobile habitats, rolling laboratories that move slowly across the landscape. Inside, they eat together, work together, solve problems together. Because on Mars, teamwork is survival. But beyond the training, something else is happening. Humanity is preparing for a moment unlike any in history. Every 2 years and 2 months, a rare alignment of planets appears. A narrow window when Earth and Mars move close enough for a journey between worlds. When that window opens, a fleet of spacecraft waits in orbit around Earth. Massive starships, built to carry the first generation of Martian settlers. Scientists, engineers, builders, farmers, people willing to leave the only world humanity has ever known and travel into the dark toward a silent red planet. When the countdown begins, the engines ignite with a thunder that shakes the sky. One by one, the ships rise, leaving Earth behind. Crossing the black ocean of space, months pass in the quiet weightlessness of the journey. Earth slowly shrinks into a distant blue star. And ahead, Mars begins to grow, a red world waiting on the horizon. When the astronauts finally arrive, their bodies must learn gravity again. Mars pulls them down with a force only a third of Earth's. Every step feels strange, almost like walking in slow motion. But the work begins immediately. Habitats expand. Solar farms spread across the desert. Robotic machines dig into the soil. Green plants begin to grow inside protected biospheres. Tiny forests inside transparent domes. Life spreading slowly across an alien world. The first seeds of a new civilization. And with every passing year, something extraordinary happens. Cultures from Earth begin to blend together. Languages mix. Traditions merge. A new identity slowly takes shape.
Not American.
Not Russian. Not Chinese. Not European. But something entirely new. Martian. For the first time in history, humanity is no longer a single-planet species. Life that once evolved under Earth's blue sky now grows beneath the pale red horizon of Mars. And somewhere in the quiet dust of that ancient planet, humanity may finally discover the answer to the oldest question ever asked. Are we alone? Or have we simply come home?